Right then, hello there everybody, Adam Clery from FourFourTwo, Happy New Year, you remember me. Apologies for the disruption to your regular scheduled football insight broadcasting, but we're back now and we're back with Manchester United versus Liverpool. Possibly still the most consistently fun and mad fixture in the Premier League. Now, given that Gary Neville was trying to shovel snow back onto the pitch to stop this game going ahead, expectations for this Man United side were incredibly low, but so good was their performance, I toyed with the idea of calling this video How Man United Beat Liverpool 2-2. But that's obviously very silly and people might call me horrible names, so instead we're just going to look at why Liverpool couldn't quite get it going and why Amorim's side, despite their recent results, were good value for a point and maybe Twiddle's moustache could have had 3. So let's see if I can remember how you do this. Alright, so first up, no major surprises in either the selections or the formations. Man United are now this 3-4-3 that Amorim has brought over from Sporting Lisbon. Sometimes it looks really good, sometimes it really doesn't, and Liverpool have settled into this nice 4-3-3 with 𝗕𝗏𝗏 being the single pivot and Mo Salah having the most Mo Salah season you've ever seen. And the phrase I have heard/read an awful lot of since this game finished was that Liverpool paid this Man United team too much respect. What that means in actual footballing terms is that their press was uncharacteristically not very aggressive. They stood off them. And in reality, the reason for that sort of standoffishness is not because they were paying them too much respect. Like, this is Liverpool. They don't need to do that. They didn't do it against Real Madrid. They're not going to do it here. It's just that Arne Slot always tweaks the approach, tweaks the tactics on a game-to-game basis to fit the opposition. And this is the first time I can really remember this season him appearing to mostly get those tweaks wrong. Like, if you look at the early exchanges of the game, you can see that it's not that Liverpool are not pressing Man United. They've pretty much gone man for man with their front 3 versus the back 3. And that problem specifically is that it's sort of fiddly for the fullbacks to work out exactly who to go to. Like, you can see in this bit here, Liverpool have locked on 3-for-3 while Man United have got the ball, but Diogo Dalot is in no danger whatsoever of being pressed by Alexander-Arnold, who we will be talking about later. Like, it was pretty clear that both him and Robertson were told not to jump all the way forward and sort of back up the press onto these wing-backs, and that's actually a pretty sensible decision by Arne Slot because it leaves you really short-handed at the top end. Like, for all Rasmus Højlund is coming for a lot of criticism this season for his perceived lack of threat in front of goal, he's still a really capable, quite good physical centre-forward, both in terms of his strength and his movement, and he can very easily occupy the attention of 2 centre-backs. So if your full-backs jump all the way up this end of the pitch to try and back up this press, then it leaves these big pockets of space for the 2 number 10s that Man United have to exploit. And obviously you want to try and avoid that happening because Man United have 3 centre-backs who are all very capable with the ball at their feet, who can just skip the entire midfield press if they find the space and find players in these areas here. Like, the best chance Man United got in that first half was from Martinez doing exactly that. A little bit of space opened up, he goes straight over the top and gets Rasmus Højlund in. Ergo, which is a word I hardly ever use, don't know why I've said it now, Slot was basically happy for Man United to have these passes out to Dalot and Mazraoui with the understanding that they've shut off all the options further up the pitch, so when they inevitably come back into the middle, they've got a 3v2 to contend with. You can tell I'm a little bit rusty here because what is this I'm doing with my hands? What's that about? Anyway though, so when the ball does inevitably go to the only 2 players in space, then Liverpool can shuffle across and basically go 3-for-3 on that side of the pitch, stop the runs down that side and force Man United to play into a middle where they can then get a 3-on-2. That was clearly the game plan. Nick it off them here, then run at them. And you can tell definitely, by the way, that this was part of the design rather than just something that was happening. Because on the rare occasions, one of the fullbacks did get sort of baited into pressing the wing-backs, one of these midfielders would then cover to make sure it was still a back 4. Like you can see here, Alexander-Arnold's been drawn out to Dalot. That's a good decision on his part, in my opinion. But Jones has left the midfield and gone into the right-back area. They were desperate to stop pockets of spaces in these areas. But, this is why conversations about systems only take you so far. You've then got to start talking about the individual performances, because both Mainoo and Ugarte, the things being specifically targeted here, were enormous in this match. Like if I show you both 𝗈𝗊𝗍𝗀 and 𝗕𝗏𝗓𝗏's pass maps from this game, you will see those balls back into midfield were the thing they were doing most often. They kept finding themselves somewhere along this flank with very little in front of them, and then basically falling into the trap that Liverpool were trying to set. But because of the performances of these two, both on the ball and more importantly off the ball, that trap never ever really worked. They were composed when it came to feet, they were playing through Liverpool's press, and more importantly, they physically won the battle in the midfield. Like Ugarte in particular, I thought was so good in this game, and I'll show you his heat map, right? Because it's so spotty and dotted all around. So whenever there was space, he was able to drop into these little pockets and receive it, and then turn, play forward. He wasn't losing the ball in this midfield battle. You can see, in fact, he had loads of his touches right in the centre, which is where Liverpool would have been specifically targeting. Like, he looked composed, he looked disruptive. It was a perfect sort of battling performance to win a game like this. Well, obviously not win the game. It was 2-2. I do know how maths works, but it probably felt like a win. Between these two, they won the second and third most ground duels in the entire match. I'm going to tell you who number one was in a second. That's part of a later point. And at no stage did it ever really feel like Liverpool had a man advantage in this area. It's probably the least effective I've ever seen Curtis Jones look. Like, between them, this is every single tackle, every single interception, every single ball recovery they made across the 90 minutes. They stopped Liverpool having any rhythm, and more importantly, played out of the trap they were trying to set. It was really good. But the one player who really caught the eye in this Man United side for me was Bruno Fernandes. Like, he does feel a bit of a weird fit for that left-sided number 10 position, because you can see from his heat map, he gets shunted out onto the touchline a lot more than you would really like for a player with his capabilities in the middle. But look at all the other little pockets where he managed to do things. And the reason I say do things in such a weird voice is because this wasn't just about getting on the ball and hurting Liverpool. This was just like Ugarte and Mainoo, winning tackles, making interceptions, disrupting Liverpool's rhythm. He had complete control over this part of the pitch, and it was he who had the most number of ground duels won. Like, it was a fantastic technical performance on the ball, as we'll see when we look at the goals, but it was also just full of piss and bile and spit. He fought Liverpool for this game, and again, he won. Like, with him sort of free to go wherever and drop into the middle to help these two, between the three of them, they won the ball back off Liverpool in some capacity nearly 30 times, right? So across the whole game, almost once every 3 minutes, they went and turned over possession in some capacity, and you can't play against a team that are physically doing that to you. And just bearing in mind that Liverpool's strategy here seemed to be force the ball into the middle, and then when they make the mistake, that's when we'll punish them. The mentality involved in this Man United performance is worthy of note, I think, because they looked so calm on the ball. They didn't make silly little mistakes. They didn't get broken under pressure. Like, they looked like a really good team that knew they could play through this. And if that sounds like a really weird thing to praise, like, bear in mind, that's the same midfield setup that Man United had against Bournemouth when they got more or less passed off the pitch and completely run around. So the step up in attitude, the step up in aggression, the step up in execution is really worthy of note. Like, given all the talk before the match that this could be 4-0, could be 5-0, could be absolutely anything, Man United turned up here to win this game. I'm going to get to the goals in a second, right? But I just want to show you one pass in this match that typifies what they were trying to do. The 96th minute of the game, you're running back towards your own goal. It is 2-2 at Anfield. You have a point. Every single ounce of common sense should tell Manuel Ugarte to just roll this back to Andre Onana and then just take the whistle and be happy with your day's work. But instead, having very quickly scanned over his shoulder, you can see him doing it here, just before he gets to the ball, he plays a 40-yard blind left to right diagonal pass. And given that Liverpool are all over the place, they're moving up the pitch, they're completely disorganised, that's, if you can pull it off, the best thing in the world you can possibly do. And it puts Man United immediately in this situation. And let's be entirely real about this. From here, this pass then happens, and they should, in the very last seconds, win this game of football. And that all comes because one of your defensive midfielders, who should be playing it simple and just lowering all the risks, decides, nah, do you know what? we're here to win, I'm going to try and win. But the thing is, you see, any team could actually do this. Like Southampton could turn up at Anfield with a really sort of aggressive mindset and be combative and win all of their duels, right? But what Man United also did on top of this, like this gave them the foundation to go and do, was correctly identify a weakness in this Liverpool side and then target it and do things with it. And you know what? I am slightly sorry to say it because I do feel like occasionally the criticism of him gets blown out of proportion, but it was so clear here that Man United's entire game plan was to target Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now, first up, a little bit of context, right? These are Liverpool's average positions, which, yes, only tell you so much. But what they do show you is that they are not, as a team, particularly well set up to defend that side. Now, if you look over on this side, Gakpo and Diaz are sort of in a similar position because they do a lot of interchanging, they do a lot of covering over, they do a lot of work off the ball, they help out over here. But Mo Salah is Mo Salah. He is too good at all the other things to ask him to do that as well. So he's far further up the pitch in terms of his average contributions. Virtually no attempt to track back or to win the ball or anything like that. He's your goal scorer. And thus, in a game like this, where the fullbacks have been asked to sit a little bit deeper because of the threat offered by these two 10s, it creates an enormous disconnect between your right back and your right-sided forward. So what you need then is whoever is on this side of your midfield three to basically act as the bridge between the two. Do the tracking back for Mo Salah, but also help do the ball progression that Alexander-Arnold's too deep to do. And as we've already discussed, this was a pretty bad performance from Curtis Jones as well, so that left this entire side vulnerable. Vulnerable. There's an L in that, isn't there? Vulnerable. In fact, this is actually a really old school graph. I've never used this before, right? But this is the concentration of Manchester United's attacking play. And look how overly weighted onto that left-hand side it is. They barely bothered going through the middle. They hardly ever went down the right. Every time they had a chance to get the ball in or to run with it or to create a passing angle, it was over here. And as a result, I'm going to show you every single pass Man United made into the box, successful or otherwise. Look how many times they got into that space behind the fullback. Liverpool could not stop the crosses coming from this side of the pitch. Now, whether that's a system issue or a bad performance because this man's head is in Madrid or on Mars or whatever, I will leave for you to decide. But regardless, it worked. Like, take the first goal, for example, right? At the start of the second half, Man United have done really well. It's 0-0. You would forgive them for sort of sitting back a little bit and trying to protect what they've got. But no, they're really aggressive in their press. They force Alexander-Arnold into a rushed, some would say thoughtless clearance. And from there, Martinez steps all the way forward, backs up that press, which is what Liverpool weren't doing, and nicks the ball back. It goes out to Fernandes on the left-hand side, and there's no aggression here from Alexander-Arnold. Like, I know he's getting loads and loads of stick, but I'll try and just stick to the facts with this. He is not stopping Fernandes doing anything. In fact, he allows him to come in field and then just lets him walk past him. And once he gets into this area of the pitch, that's where he's at his most dangerous. Like, the damage is done by this point. You've allowed him the opportunity to do something, so he slides in Martinez, and it's only at this moment here do we see any sort of reaction from Alexander-Arnold. He makes half a sprint to get back to him, but it's gone. It's happened. Incidentally, he then scores my favourite kind of goal. Just, you're not meant to be there. Don't look at where it is. Just get your head down, lash it, and put it in the roof of the net. You don't see enough of them. And then for the equaliser, and this is just a weird one to me because the ball sort of like hopefully punted forward, and there's no need or reason or imperative whatsoever for him to then get drawn into the middle of the pitch. That's not where his man goes. So when 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗥𝗔 heads it clear, Alexander-Arnold's now drifted inside of him, like between him and Van Dijk. So when it comes straight back, the impetus is now on 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗥𝗔 to go out and close down Garnacho. So Liverpool are with this sort of back four, with these two completely the wrong way around. And this is why I said before, by the way, that I do think occasionally Alexander-Arnold gets more criticism than he's due. Like, 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗥𝗔 should do better here. He's got really good pace. He should be able to stop this cross coming in. And when it does come in, Alexander-Arnold, who is also not in good form by any stretch of the imagination, just loses where 𝗈𝗊𝗍𝗀 is, takes his eyes off him, gets drawn towards the back post. That allows him in to then score. But the reality is, this whole mess, which really did wind Virgil van Dijk up, comes from this small decision, this small thoughtless act by Alexander-Arnold that completely disrupts the shape of the defence. It's an odd one. Like, don't get me wrong here, this game does not finish 2-2 purely because Trent Alexander-Arnold has a bad game, boo him, etc, etc. But his performance was of a sufficiently low calibre that it opened the door for Manchester United, and they were sufficiently well set up, cleverly I thought, to then... How do I finish that? Walk through it? That doesn't sound very exciting, but you know what I mean. I don't know why I'm struggling with that so much. I have used the door before. I'm not going to keep banging on about him because this video for me is more about why Man United were good and got it right as opposed to one individual error. But Alexander-Arnold being forced this far back because of the tweak Slot had made in the system just really seemed to mess his game up. Like, if you look at all his successful passes, right, a lot of them are in field, and all the ones that are forward feel like they're quite short. Like, Liverpool clearly have good possession. He's giving it to Salah or somebody in front of him. There's not really any of his trademark sort of incision between the lines or into the box. But then you look at all his unsuccessful passes, and a lot of these are long. A lot of these are him trying to be incisive, and so many of them come from a much deeper position than he's been getting on the ball this season. So he had time and stuff to do things, but he just wasn't at it. But anyway, yes, it's not about him. It's about how Man United were good. And if you've not seen the game or the score and you've watched this, then you may be forgiven for thinking they won 2-0, but there was small downsides to this performance that's probably worth highlighting. Now, first off, I thought the penalty was quite unlucky. Like, yes, it's the correct interpretation of the law. I'm not saying it's not a penalty, but it just seems like at some point we're going to have to really think about the handball rule, because I don't get why that should pretty much gift the other team a goal. However, the equaliser for Liverpool simply carries no defence with it. In fact, I think 𝗦𝗶𝗴hs was having such a good game that either his brains or his balls swelled to the wrong size. By which I mean either his balls got too big or his brain got too small. I'll let you decide which or both. Like, because Man United were winning so many of their duels and putting in so many good tackles, I think he gets a false sense of either confidence or ability. Because in this position here, we'll just freeze it on the spot like I can, because I'm the one who edits these. There's no reason whatsoever for him to go to ground here. 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏𝗧 is at an extremely silly angle and on his wrong foot. You have to stand that up, and if the cross comes in behind you, you've just got to trust other people can deal with that. But instead, he goes to the shops and for a hot dog and for a paper, and I imagine in his head heard a comedy whoops noise as he did this. So a big daft individual mistake on that goal. One on possibly another day you might get away with, but this is Liverpool, and if you open the door for them, they're going to walk through it. That's never going to stick, is it? But anyway, yes, overall, Manchester United, in my opinion, very, very, very good value for the 2-2, and probably should have won it, because I imagine Harry Maguire is going to be seeing this chance back a lot in both his dreams and his nightmares. Which is a mad thing to say, really. Not the Harry Maguire point, that's definitely true. The point about them being really good value for a point or possibly 3, because this is the same Man United side that have just looked so devoid of intensity and structure and a game plan the last couple of weeks. So to see it working so well here, wow. But if I may, don't know why I keep picking these up, just be permitted to end on a more philosophical point, right? It's all well and good upping these levels against Liverpool and getting a really good result and thinking you're good. The next 2 games they have are Southampton and Brighton. Now, they are both at home, and the Man United side we've seen previously this season, and indeed for most of the last one, would turn up to those fixtures, labour to a really uninspiring win against Southampton after going behind and getting a scare, and then get their pants pulled down by Brighton. So this is good, but what needs to happen now is 2 quite good performances and good wins immediately as a result, because that's when you'll know they've actually turned a corner. Not here. But which Manchester United will we get? Well, your guess is as good as mine. Probably better. But yes, that's the video. Quite liked what I saw from Manchester United, but I'm not going to get carried away just yet. I'm quite concerned by what I saw from Liverpool, but not going to get carried away just yet. But what are your feelings? What did you think about it? Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? Did you think they should have won? Did you think it was one of the maddest sort of bad first half, good second half you've ever seen? All feelings, thoughts, commentary, verse, poetry, everything welcome in the comments below. I do really like reading it. You can, of course, get me across all of the socials at Adam Clery, Clery. I didn't even really look at my phone over Christmas, which was really nice. I highly recommend it. But don't worry, I'm back to doom scrolling and staring into the void and letting my brain ooze gently out of the corner of my ears now. So come be friends. I need more friends. Until next time, though, the 442 socials are in the corner of the video. The latest issue of the magazine, which I'm 99% sure has Ruben Amorim on the cover, that's nicely timed, is available now from all good retailers and the crap ones as well. And until next time, which there's a lot of football this week. There's a lot of football this week, so it won't be long. I've been Adam Clery. It's 442. That was 2-2, and I'll see you soon, too. Bye.